If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to this channel and support us so we can post new videos every day. Your support means the world. The sky above New Shanghai burned like a wound. Orbital bombardment had carved trenches of molten glass through what had once been humanity's proudest city, and now ash fell like snow over the silent streets. In the ruins of the Eastern District, captured human soldiers knelt in formation before their conquerors, hands bound behind their backs, eyes fixed on the scorched earth. The alien general stood before them, 8 feet of chitinous armor and cold certainty, his 4 eyes reflecting the dying light of a civilization. "You will kneel," he said, his voice resonating through universal translators with the weight of 1,000 conquered worlds. "As all worlds do before the Dominion. Your defiance ends here. Your pride ends here. Your species will learn its place." The soldiers remained silent, broken, all except one. She rose slowly from her knees, the motion drawing every weapon in the alien formation toward her. Call sign Valkyrie. Her combat armor was scorched, her face streaked with blood and ash, but her eyes held something the general had not seen in decades of conquest. Not fear trying to masquerade as courage, but genuine, unshakable defiance. "Kneel first," she said. The universe held its breath. Alien soldiers froze mid-step. The general's translator processed the words twice, as if unable to believe such audacity could exist. For 3 seconds that stretched into eternity, no one moved. Then the general laughed, a sound like breaking stone, and gestured for his guards to stand down. "Fascinating," he said. "Even now, at the end of everything, you resist." 6 months earlier, humanity had been scrambling. In the orbital shipyards around Mars, welders worked in shifts that never ended, building warships from mining vessels, cargo haulers, anything that could mount a weapon or take a hit. The red planet's moons had been carved hollow to extract every gram of useful material. Admiral Chen stood on the command deck of humanity's flagship, watching the construction through panoramic windows, his reflection ghostly against the void. Behind him, his staff coordinated the desperate migration of resources from 3 solar systems, a logistics nightmare of last evacuations and final transmissions from dying colonies in the outer reaches. "Sir, we're getting reports from Proxima," his communications officer said, her voice carefully controlled. "The colony went dark 4 hours ago." Chen closed his eyes. 50,000 souls, gone, just like Tau Ceti, just like Wolf 359. The alien dominion swept through human space, like a cleansing fire, methodical and absolute. His chief tactical officer approached, datapad in hand, her expression grim. "We've run every simulation, every scenario." She paused. "We can't win this." "I know," Chen said. "We're not fighting to win, we're fighting to be remembered." He turned to look at the fleet taking shape around them, a ragtag armada of repurposed civilian vessels. Mining ships with railguns welded to their hulls, colony transports converted into troop carriers. It was pathetic compared to the Dominion's war machine, beautiful in its desperation. The alien fleet was already 3 days out from Jupiter, a constellation of death moving with the inevitability of a celestial event. When they arrived, they would bring fire, and humanity would answer with everything they had left. Now, standing on the alien flagship's command deck, Valkyrie found herself in a philosophical duel she hadn't expected. The general had ordered her brought before him, curiosity apparently stronger than his desire for immediate execution. The chamber was vast and cold, all black metal and pulsing light, designed to make visitors feel small. Around them, alien officers went about their duties with mechanical precision, barely glancing at the human prisoner in their midst. "Your concept of free will is amusing," the general said, circling her slowly. "You believe choice makes you strong. But choice is chaos. My people abandoned such illusions millennia ago. We became perfect through submission to order. That's what makes us dangerous." Valkyrie replied, watching him through the corner of her eye. "You calculate, we improvise. You predict, we surprise. Every human you face is a variable you can't control." The general paused, and for a moment something flickered across his alien features. Was it curiosity? Respect? He gestured to a view screen showing Earth, half shrouded in smoke from the bombardment. "Your world burns because of this unpredictability. If you had simply knelt, as every rational species does, your cities would still stand. Standing cities filled with slaves aren't worth having." "Pride," the general mused. "Such a human failing." "No," Valkyrie said quietly. "Hope, We build it out of scraps. She proved it 20 hours later when humanity's counterstrike began. The gravity sling missiles had been her idea. Weaponized asteroids accelerated around Jupiter's gravity well, achieving velocities that made them nearly impossible to intercept. The Dominion's shields were designed for energy weapons, particle beams, plasma torpedoes. They weren't prepared for 10 million tons of iron and ice, hitting at a significant fraction of light speed. The alien fleet's right flank shattered in an instant, 6 capital ships tumbling into pieces, their debris creating a secondary storm of destruction. In the tactical center on Europa, the human commanders watched the results with grim satisfaction. One of Valkyrie's former squadmates, now commanding the moon base's defenses, allowed himself a moment of hope. Around him, soldiers who had been preparing to die suddenly believed they might live. But the celebration was short-lived. The Dominion's response was swift and brutal, energy beams lancing out from their remaining vessels to vaporize human positions across the Jovian system. Europa's ice crust cracked under orbital strikes, geysers of water vapor erupting into space like the moon's dying breath. In the alien council chambers, the Dominion's leadership gathered to debate humanity's fate. The discussion was cold, clinical, a mathematical equation of efficiency versus principle. The general listened to his peers argue for complete extermination. The humans had proven too costly, too unpredictable, too dangerous to assimilate. But privately, in his personal quarters, he found himself studying captured human transmissions, music, art, stories, chaos given form. There was something in their cultural output that defied analysis, something that made him return to it again and again. They fight like their songs, he murmured to himself, listening to a recording of a human symphony. Out of tune, but unforgettable. On Europa's dying surface, Valkyrie recorded a final message to Earth, her face lit by the emergency lights of the failing station. Through the viewport behind her, the gas giant Jupiter filled half the sky, indifferent to the war raging in its orbit. She spoke of defiance, of choosing how to face the end, of being remembered not for submission but for resistance. Soldiers around her did the same, recording farewells to families they would never see again, last words to a homeworld that might not survive to hear them. Even if we fall, Valkyrie said to the camera, they'll remember who we were. The final battle was beautiful in its tragedy. Human ships dove through the Dominion formation like minnows attacking a shark. Using every trick they'd learned in months of desperate combat, they fired railguns while performing impossible evasive maneuvers, launched boarding pods while their hulls were coming apart, rammed fusion drives into enemy vessels when ammunition ran dry. The aliens responded with overwhelming firepower, energy storms that turned the vacuum into a light show of annihilation. But humanity kept coming, unpredictable and relentless, turning their weakness into a kind of demented strength. Valkyrie's corvette took a direct hit, the explosion sending it spinning toward the alien flagship. Instead of trying to regain control, she accelerated into the spin, using it to mask her approach. Her remaining crew sealed themselves into boarding pods, and they breached the Dominion vessel's hull through a damaged section, cutting their way inside with plasma torches and pure determination. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, Valkyrie was already at the general's door. They met in his command chamber, alone. She had ordered her team to fall back. This confrontation was personal. The general regarded her with what might have been approval, dismissing his guards with a gesture. Two warriors, separated by biology and culture, but united by understanding. Your defiance will be your end, he said, drawing a blade of pure energy from his side. Then let it echo forever, Valkyrie replied, raising her own weapon. They fought like opposing philosophies given form, his movements precise and calculated, hers improvised and wild. He was stronger, faster, built for combat by 1,000 generations of genetic optimization. But she was human, and humans were survivors who turned every disadvantage into a desperate gambit. She feigned exhaustion, let him think she was beaten, then struck from an angle his perfect tactical training hadn't anticipated. Her blade found the gap in his armor, and he fell to one knee, bleeding silver blood onto the dark deck. She stood over him, weapon raised for the killing blow. Every tactical consideration said to finish it, to eliminate their greatest threat. But she lowered her blade and extended her hand instead. We kneel to no one, she said, but we can stand together. The general looked up at her, understanding dawning in his alien eyes. He took her hand, and she pulled him to his feet. Then, slowly, deliberately, he knelt before her, not in submission, but in recognition, respect given freely, not extracted by force. "Cease fire," he commanded through his neural link, the order transmitting instantly to every Dominion vessel. "All ships, stand down." Earth rebuilt slowly, painfully, but it rebuilt. Alien survivors walked through human cities as ambassadors, learning what it meant to choose rather than simply obey. Valkyrie stood at the dedication of a memorial, watching children play in parks that had been battlefields, seeing hope take root in scorched soil. "Empires rise by fear," she said to the assembled crowd, "but legends rise by choice." The alien general attended the ceremony, his presence still drawing stares but no longer provoking panic. He had spent months among humans, studying their art, their philosophy, their beautiful chaos. In his private journals, he wrote thoughts that would have been heresy to the Dominion. Perhaps the humans were never meant to kneel. Perhaps none of us were. Years passed. The war became history, then legend, then myth. A new generation of humans grew up in a solar system at peace, barely able to imagine the desperate days when everything hung by a thread. But they remembered the stories, passed down like sacred texts, of ordinary people who chose to stand when standing meant death. Humanity launched an exploration vessel into deep space, a joint human-alien design that represented their new alliance. On its hull, engraved in letters 3 meters high, was a simple message: "We kneel to no one." The ship's AI was named Valkyrie, carrying her defiant spirit into the unknown stars. In the memorial garden on Europa, now a peaceful moon orbiting a peaceful planet, Valkyrie's name was carved in stone alongside thousands of others. The inscription beneath read, "She stood when standing was revolution." Visitors came from across the system to pay respects, to remember what courage looked like when hope was just a choice away from extinction. A child stood before the memorial, her small hand touching the carved letters. Her mother knelt beside her, explaining the story of the war, of the general's challenge, of Valkyrie's impossible defiance. The child looked up at the stars visible through the dome's transparent ceiling, processing the tale with the seriousness only children possess. "What did she say?" the child asked, when he told her to kneel. Her mother smiled, an expression of pride and remembrance. "She said kneel first." The child nodded, understanding something fundamental about her species, about the legacy she had inherited. Above them, stars wheeled in their eternal dance, indifferent to the struggles of the creatures who looked upon them with wonder. But among those stars, somewhere in the darkness between worlds, Valkyrie's namesake vessel sailed on, carrying humanity's defiant spirit into an uncertain future. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the smartest, but because when given the choice between submission and resistance, between safety and principle, between kneeling and standing, they had chosen to stand. And that choice, that simple human choice, had changed everything.